Welcome. You've come to the quiet side of the night, a place where stories drift like smoke, and time slows down, just enough for your mind to rest. Tonight, we'll ride through the old American West, where cowboys crossed endless prairies, beneath skies full of stars and silence. So playback, close your eyes, breathe slow and deep. If you enjoy these journeys into the past, don't forget to leave a gentle like, quiet comment, and maybe subscribe for the next story. Now, let's begin. The story of a cowboy's long, lonely trail, and the dreams carried on the wind. The prairie stretched beyond sight, an ocean of whispering grass beneath a sky too wide to understand. There was still the kind of stillness that feels alive. A soft wind moved through the plains, carrying the scent of dust and distance and something ancient. Far away, a single rider appeared, small against the great emptiness. His hat pulled low, his coat faded from too many summers under the sun. Each step of his horse left a mark that the wind would soon erase. People said cowboys were free, but freedom has a weight of its own. Days bled into nights, and nights into mornings, until time itself felt like a slow dream. He rode through silence, a silence so deep, you could almost hear the heartbeat of the earth beneath the hooves. There was no glory here, no crowds, no gold, no stories worth telling. Only the soft rhythm of leather and wind, and the patience of a man who learned to listen to the land. Sometimes he'd hum to himself, a low, quiet tune that drifted into the horizon, half lullaby, half prayer. He didn't know where the trail would end, only that he had to keep riding. And as the sun began to rise, painting the sky in gold and pale blue, the cowboy lifted his eyes, and for a moment, the world felt gentle. The wind brushed against his face, the horse breathed slow and steady beneath him, and all around stretched the endless land, silent, timeless, waiting. Before the light touched the ground, the camp was already stirring. Someone coughed. Another voice muttered half asleep, and then the spark of flint. A small fire bloomed in the dark, its glow licking the edges of a blackened kettle. The smell of coffee crept through the chill air, bitter and comforting. Men rose one by one, pulling on boots, rubbing their eyes, their breath white in the cold. No one said much, words were wasted this early. The world was quiet, except for the crackle of the fire and the low murmur of horses waking nearby. A few of them sat close together, hands outstretched to the warmth, faces lit by orange light and sleep. The Cookie, as they called him, stirred the pot, humming softly. He'd been up before anyone, like he always was. Tin plates clinked. The sound of spoons scraping beans filled the silence. It wasn't a feast, but it was enough. Warm food, strong coffee, and another sunrise coming to life across the plains. As the first light spilled over the horizon, the men mounted their horses, and the day began again, lightly, endlessly, just like yesterday. Out here, men didn't have much. Saddle, a horse, a hat, and the man riding next to them. They came from everywhere, some chasing a dream, some running from something they'd rather forget. But the trail didn't care who they were. Under the same sun, they all became the same, dust-covered, tired, and stubborn enough to keep going. When one man fell behind, another slowed his pace. When a rope snapped or a horse stumbled, someone was there to lend a hand. No one asked questions. No one needed to. They laughed when they could, sang when the nights felt too long, and sometimes just sat in silence, listening to the wind hum over the grass. There was peace in that silence, a kind of unspoken friendship that could only be born in the middle of nowhere. The cowboy didn't need family out here. He already had one, forged not by blood, but by miles, and trust. The chuck wagon creaked as the cook lifted the lid. Steam rolled out, thick with the smell of beans, bacon, and black coffee. The cowboys gathered close, their faces half hidden behind hats and smoke. Someone laughed. Another cursed softly as he burned his fingers on a tin cup. It wasn't much, but in this quiet corner of the world, it was comfort. The cook's voice drifted above the fire. Eat while it's hot. We got miles to cover. They didn't need telling twice. Plates scraped, spoons clinked, and for a few minutes, the world felt alive with small sounds. When they were done, each man packed his things in silence. Bedrolls tied tight, coffee drained to the last drop. The fire sank low, and the smell of smoke lingered in the air, soft, fading, like the last warmth before another hard day. By noon, the world shimmered. The sun burned high and unkind. Dust rose with every step of the herd, turning the air thick and dry. The sound of hooves filled the land, steady, thus, like a heartbeat that wouldn't stop. Sweat ran down sunburned necks, shirts stuck to skin, and lips cracked from thirst. The cowboys said little. Talking took too much breath. Each one moved in rhythm, boots in the stirrups, eyes squinting against the glare. Sometimes, a low whistle drifted through the heat. A tune passed from one rider to another, half song, half memory. The land stretched on forever, and yet they knew it by heart. Every dry riverbed, every lonely tree that offered a moment's shade. They weren't chasing glory. They were simply moving cattle, mile after mile, across the bones of the earth. And though the day was hard, there was something peaceful in it, a quiet surrender to the rhythm of dust and sky. As the sun began to fall, the light softened, shadows stretched long, and the world exhaled. Another day survived, another night waiting, somewhere beyond the horizon. The cattle moved slow, too slow. A single shout split the still air, and in an instant, the calm broke. A young steer bolted from the herd, hooves striking hard against the dry ground, dust rising behind it like smoke. "Go!" someone called. The cowboy leaned forward, spurs flashing, his horse lunging into motion. Wind tore past his ears. The sound of hooves, the sharp whistle of rope slicing the air. He spun the lasso once, twice, and with a snap, it flew. The loop caught true. The steer stumbled, slid, and came to rest, its breath ragged in the heat. For a moment, there was only silence again, broken by the horse's slow exhale. And the cowboy's voice, soft, steady, almost gentle. He patted the animal's neck, untied the rope, and led it back toward the moving sea of cattle. Out here, it wasn't about glory. It was about control, about rhythm, timing, trust. The bond between horse and rider, between man and the land, was something ancient and wordless. As he rode back to the herd, the sun shimmered against the horizon, a reminder that another long day was slowly, mercifully ending. By late afternoon, the world seemed to hum. The cattle moved in steady lines, their shadows stretching long across the earth. The men rode quiet, half awake, half dreaming. Their eyes followed the trail, their minds far away, to places they hadn't seen in years. A home, a voice, a face they used to know. Sometimes, a tune would rise from somewhere in the line. Softly, a cowboy's song carried on the wind. No one knew who started it. No one needed to. The song belonged to everyone. The road stretched on, a ribbon of dust and gold, fading into the horizon. And in that endless, quiet movement, there was something almost holy, kind of peace, that only comes from surrendering to the long, slow rhythm of the trail. The sun sank low, turning the world to amber and rose. The air cooled, and the smell of the land changed, from hot dust to sage and smoke. One by one, the cowboys slowed their horses, calling the herd to a gentle stop. The cattle settled, their soft moves rolling through the valley, like waves on a quiet shore. The men dismounted, stretching tired legs, faces glowing with the last light of the sun. Some laughed quietly, others simply stood still, watching the sky fade to violet. It was the best part of the day, the few moments when work was done, and silence felt like a gift. Somewhere, a bird called once, and then night began to fall. The campfire flickered to life, its glow warm against the gathering dark. Tin cups clinked, boots scuffed the dirt, and the smell of stew drifted through the cool air. The cowboys sat in a loose circle, their faces lit in gold and shadow. Someone told a story, about a storm that took a whole herd in Texas. Someone else laughed softly, said he didn't believe a word. The night wrapped around them, thick and calm. No noise but the fire's soft crackle, and the steady breath of horses nearby. Above them, the stars came out, one by one, like candles lit across the sky. For the first time all day, the men smiled without hurry. Here, in the quiet glow, they could forget the heat, and the ache in their bones. They were just men under the stars, small, tired, and strangely content. When the camp grew still, a few men stayed awake, to watch, to guard the herd, and the sleeping souls around the fire. They rode slow circles in the dark, their horses moving silent through the grass. The moon hung low, soft and pale, casting silver light on the world. In that quiet, every sound felt alive. The chirp of a cricket, the distant rustle of a cow, the sigh of the wind as it passed over the hills. The cowboy hummed a low song, barely above a whisper. It was meant not for people, but for the cattle, to keep them calm, to keep the night gentle. The song drifted through the darkness, and for a moment, the land seemed to hum with him. He looked toward the fire, a few dim embers glowing faintly. Everyone else was asleep. Only he and the stars remained awake. And as the night deepened, and the world fell silent once more, he smiled softly, knowing that this quiet, lonely peace was what being a cowboy truly meant. The camp lay silent now, only the low breathing of sleeping men, and the quiet shifting of the herd in the distance. The cowboy on watch sat tall in his saddle, eyes half closed, listening to the wind slide through the grass. He felt the weight of the stars above him, thousands of them, cold and bright, stretching forever across the black sky. He hummed softly, a tune his mother used to sing long ago. Each note floated into the night air, soft as breath. Sometimes, in the stillness, he thought about home, a porch light, a voice calling his name, things that now felt like dreams. The prairie was endless, and so was his loneliness. But there, under the blanket of stars, something inside him felt calm. The night didn't judge, it only listened, and the cowboy kept humming to the cattle, to the wind, and to the memory of every soul that ever rode this same dark trail. Morning came quietly, not with noise, but with color. The horizon began to glow, turning the sky from black to soft gold. The cowboy blinked against the light, his body aching from hours in the saddle. Another night done, another day waiting. He rode back toward camp, where Cookie was already awake, banging pots, the smell of coffee spreading through the cool air. "Breakfast's up," someone mumbled, rubbing his eyes, stretching stiff limbs. Steam rose from tin cups, and laughter echoed faintly. The trail boss called orders, a gruff voice, steady and sure. In the distance, the cattle stirred, shadows turning into shapes, as sunlight spilled across the plain. It was time to move again. No rest, no delay. For cowboys, morning wasn't a new beginning. It was just the next mile. By midday, the heat had become a living thing. The sun pressed down like a hand, the air shimmered, and every breath felt heavy. The trail stretched ahead, empty and endless, dust curling around their boots and faces. Sweat dripped down the cowboy's neck, his lips cracked, his eyes squinting through the glare. The cattle moved slow, tongues out, searching for shade that didn't exist. He reached for his canteen, but the water was warm, tasting of metal and dust. He took only one sip, just enough to keep going. Every mile was a battle, against thirst, against the burning sky, against his own exhaustion. And yet, beneath the misery, there was something strangely peaceful. No noise, no world, just the sound of hoofbeats and the whisper of wind across the dry land. By late afternoon, the trail curved through a valley, where the grass grew taller and greener. For a moment, it felt almost beautiful. The men loosened their scarves, grateful for a hint of breeze. The cattle picked up pace, noses lifting at the scent of water ahead. But the land could change quick, and danger was never far. A stray steer stumbled near a ravine, and panic rippled through the herd. Horses reared, dust rose thick as smoke. "Hold the line," the boss shouted. The cowboys worked fast, cutting across the herd, their shouts echoing like thunder. It took minutes, but it felt like hours. When it was over, the dust settled slowly, like the sigh of the earth itself. The herd was safe again. The men said nothing. They just rode on, each one quietly grateful that the day had not turned to disaster. The sun began to drop, painting the land in soft orange light. The cowboys were too tired to speak now. Their shoulders slumped, eyes half closed, hands resting loosely on the reins. They ate what little they had, jerky, hardtack, a few crumbs of biscuit from morning's meal. No one complained. No one had the energy to. The only sound was the low rhythm of cattle walking and the creak of leather saddles. Dust clung to their faces, their hats, their souls, and yet, beneath the fatigue, was a quiet satisfaction. They had survived another day, another sun, another step closer to Abilene. The cowboy looked up one last time, the sky burning gold above him, and smiled faintly. Tomorrow would come soon enough, but tonight, he would rest beneath the same sky that guided every cowboy before him. The sun slipped behind the hills, and the land turned silver blue. Long shadows stretched across the plain, and the world exhaled a deep, tired breath. The cowboys slowed their horses, voices quiet now, movement softer. The heat was gone, replaced by the cool, sweet air of evening. Somewhere far away, the coyote howled, lonely, echoing across the valley. The herd began to settle, a low murmur rolling through the grass, like a lullaby of the land itself. The cowboy brushed the dust from his hat and looked at the fading light, his eyes heavy, his heart strangely peaceful. For all the hardship, for all the miles, this moment, this calm, was worth it. By the time the stars appeared, the fire was already burning bright. The men gathered close, faces lit gold, eyes soft with exhaustion. "Stew's up," Cookie called, his voice cutting through the night like a friend's laugh. Tin plates clattered, spoons scraped, and the smell of beans, salt, and smoke filled the air. Someone told a story about a horse that once outran a tornado. Another man laughed, said he'd seen that same horse lose to a mule. The fire cracked, and for a little while, the trail felt far away. Here, under the stars, they weren't cowboys or wanderers, just men sharing warmth, food, and the sound of each other's voices. The fire glowed steady, like a heartbeat in the dark. After supper, someone brought out a harmonica. A soft note rose, thin and silver, twisting through the air like smoke. The song was slow, an old tune, half memory, half dream. The others listened quietly, eyes reflecting the firelight. It was a song of home, of mothers and rivers, of days that would never return. The melody drifted upward, mingling with the stars. Even the horses seemed to listen, their ears turned toward the sound. When the last note faded, no one spoke. They didn't need to. The silence that followed was its own kind of music. The men lay down one by one, using saddles as pillows, blankets pulled tight around their shoulders. The fire burned low, orange coals glowing like tiny suns. Above them, the sky stretched wide and endless. Every star seemed closer tonight, as if leaning in to watch them sleep. The cowboy's breathing slowed, his mind floating between dream and memory. He saw a porch light, a woman in a white dress, a small boy running through tall grass. Then the images faded, and there was only peace. The wind brushed his face, soft as a mother's hand, and he drifted, down, into the quiet. The world was silent now. The herd lay calm, their shapes dark against the moonlit ground. The horses dozed, heads low, tails flicking lazily. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called, a single low note that echoed, then disappeared. The fire gave one last crackle, then fell still. Only the stars remained awake, millions of tiny eyes, watching over the sleeping men below. The cowboy shifted in his blanket, murmured something half-dreamed, and smiled. The night held him close, like an old friend, whispering softly, "Rest now. You've done enough for today." And under that whisper, the whole prairie seemed to sleep. The night was almost over. The stars had begun to fade, melting into a sky of pale gray and quiet promise. The fire had gone cold, just a few dull embers glowing faintly in the ash. The cowboy stirred in his blanket, eyes opening slow, lungs drawing in the cool breath of morning. Somewhere nearby, a horse snorted softly, and the faint jingle of a bridle broke the silence. It was still too early to rise, but the trail waited for no man. He sat up, stretched his stiff shoulders, and watched as the world began to change. Darkness lifting, light returning, life beginning again. There was something sacred about these moments. Before words, before sound, only breath, only sky, only the quiet truth of another day. Cookie was already awake. He always was. His hands worked without hurry, stacking wood, stirring the pot, pouring thick, black coffee into metal cups. The smell drifted through the air, sharp and comforting. One by one, the men rose, yawning, stretching, rubbing sleep from their eyes. "Morning," someone mumbled. Another nodded. No one needed more than that. The crackle of the fire and the hiss of boiling coffee were enough conversation. They sat close to the flames, hands warming, eyes heavy. In that soft blue light, they looked almost peaceful, like old spirits, caught between worlds. When breakfast was done, the camp began to move. Blankets folded, horses saddled, ropes coiled neat and tight. The sun peeked over the horizon, and gold spilled across the land. The cowboys moved with quiet purpose, each man knowing his task, each gesture practiced 1,000 times. Leather creaked, boots thudded softly against the dirt. Someone whistled a tune, slow, easy, like a prayer for the miles ahead. The herd stirred, tails flicking, heads lifting to the rising sun. It was time to go again, time to chase the horizon once more. The cowboy mounted his horse, looked back once at the dying campfire, and smiled faintly. Another day had begun. The morning stretched wide and golden. The air was cool, the land soft with dew. Hoofbeats fell steady, a rhythm that matched the slow beating of the cowboy's heart. The herd moved easy now, bellies full, minds calm. The trail wound through open plains, past wildflowers, and rivers that glimmered like mirrors in the sun. For a while, no one spoke. There was no need. The sound of wind and water was enough music for the soul. The cowboy let the reins rest loose in his hands and breathed deep, the scent of earth, and the promise of distance. He thought of nothing, and in that nothing, found peace. By late morning, the prairie had come alive. Birds rose in swirls from the grass, calling to one another in the bright, endless sky. The herd shimmered like a living river, flowing slow across the land. The cowboys rode steady, their shadows long behind them. Laughter broke the quiet, soft, tired, but real. Someone pointed to a hawk circling high above. "Lucky bird," he said, smiling, "gets to see it all without lifting a finger." The others chuckled, and for a moment, the world felt lighter. The cowboy tilted his hat back, let the sun warm his face, and closed his eyes, just for a heartbeat. In that heartbeat, he wasn't on the trail. He was free. By midday, the prairie shimmered like glass. The air rippled with heat, and the horizon seemed to dance, a wavering line between earth and sky. The cowboy pulled his hat low, trying to hide from the sun's relentless glare. Every breath felt dry. Every mile stretched longer than the last. Dust clung to his shirt, to his face, to his thoughts. The cattle moved slower now, tongues hanging, hooves sinking into soft dirt. Still they pressed on, always forward, because out here, there was no other choice. The sun burned down, and the world turned quiet, the kind of quiet that only comes from exhaustion. In the distance, something shimmered, a thin blue shape against the horizon. Water, someone whispered. But no one answered. They'd seen mirages before. Dreams painted by the heat, teasing the thirsty and the tired. Still, hope was a strange thing. It made a man ride faster, even when he knew better. The cowboy squinted, his vision swimming. For a moment, he almost believed it. A lake, a cool breeze, the sound of water, soft and near. But as they drew closer, the shimmer faded, the earth flat again, the air still and dry. She said, a sound small and empty. Sometimes, out here, dreams vanished before you could even reach them. The sun hung heavy now, a white circle burning above the land. Hoofbeats echoed slow, steady, like the ticking of a giant clock. Each step was a measure of time, each mile a reminder that the trail never really ended. The cowboy's body moved from habit now. His thoughts drifted far away, past the plains, past the rivers, to places he might never see again. He wasn't sure what kept him going anymore. Maybe it was duty, maybe it was the rhythm, maybe it was the peace that came from giving yourself to something bigger than you. The trail stretched on, and the world seemed endless. But in that endlessness, there was comfort, nothing to prove, nothing to lose. Only the road, only the ride. Late in the afternoon, the land dipped into a small grove of trees, a patch of shade, a mercy from the burning sky. The cowboys stopped there, not because they were told to, but because their bodies needed to. They dismounted slow, knees stiff, faces streaked with sweat and dust. Someone passed a canteen, another shared a bit of jerky. No one spoke for a long time. They just sat, listening to the sound of wind, whispering through the leaves. It was a rare sound, almost sacred. For a few brief minutes, the world felt soft again. The cowboy leaned back against a tree, closed his eyes, and let the silence wash over him. The shade felt like heaven. When they rode out again, the sky had started to change. The light turned golden, spilling across the grass like fire. The heat was fading now, the air cooler, the shadows longer. The herd moved calm, their shapes glowing in the evening sun. The cowboy breathed deep, and for the first time all day, he smiled. There was beauty in this life, rough and quiet, hidden beneath the dust and the miles. As the sun began to sink, he felt the world slow with it. The day was almost done, and though tomorrow would be the same, he didn't mind, because out here, under the endless sky, every sunset felt like a reward. The trail had quieted now. The last of the daylight faded from the sky, leaving only the soft orange shimmer of the fire. The cattle were settled, a sea of dark shapes under the starlight. The cowboys moved slow, their voices low, boots dragging through the dust. One poured coffee from the blackened pot. Another leaned back on his saddle, hat tipped low. The night air was cool, the fire warm. For the first time that day, there was peace. Someone began to hum, a soft tune from home. Half remembered, half dreamed. The stars above seemed to listen. And in that moment, the world felt small and kind. When the others drifted off to sleep, two men remained awake. They saddled their horses in silence, their breath pale against the chill air. Night watch, one whispered, the other nodded. They rode slow around the herd, the sound of hooves muffled in the dust. Now and then, a cow would stir, a low, sleepy sound, and the cowboy would hum softly, a tune to calm them. The stars above were endless, cold and bright, like eyes watching from the heavens. Out here, the silence had a weight, but it wasn't lonely. It was the sound of the earth itself, breathing slow beneath the night sky. Sometimes, during night watch, a man's mind would wander. He'd think about home, a mother's letter folded deep in his pocket, a girl he might never see again, a promise he never had the time to keep. The trail had a way of stretching not just the land, but a man's heart too, pulling it thin, between what was and what could never be. The cowboy looked up at the stars, each one sharp and clear. They didn't move fast out here. The world took its time. And in that quiet, a man could finally hear his own thoughts and forgive himself for the life he chose. A few hours later, the second watch took over. The first men returned to camp, their faces lined with fatigue, but calm. The fire had burned low, its glow soft against the dark. One cowboy poured what was left of the coffee, still warm, and sipped it slow. He could feel the heat of the cup in his hands, the ache in his bones, and the comfort of silence. The night stretched on, but he didn't fight it. Out here, the darkness wasn't something to fear. It was something to rest inside. The first pale light touched the horizon, a thin line of silver, growing brighter with every breath. The herd stirred, the horses lifted their heads, and the cowboys woke. To another day. There was no alarm, no rush, just the rhythm of the earth waking up again. They rolled their blankets, tightened saddles, and stretched their stiff muscles. Another day on the trail. Someone murmured. A few laughed softly. The air smelled of dew and dust, and for a brief, golden moment, everything felt new again. The night was over, but the dream lingered, a soft, quiet memory, carried with the morning wind. The sun rose slow and golden, stretching long shadows across the open land. The herd moved steady again, hooves beating soft against the dirt, a rhythm older than memory. The air was cool, the kind that tastes new after a long night. The cowboy rode in silence, watching the horizon. Somewhere out there, he knew the trail would end. For weeks, the days had all felt the same, but this one felt different. There was a faint scent in the wind, smoke maybe, or bread, or something that meant people. And for the first time in a long while, hope didn't feel so far away. By midday, they could see it, tiny specks on the horizon, shimmering like heat waves. Then the sound reached them, a distant whistle. The train. Someone laughed quietly, as if they didn't quite believe it. After so many miles of wind and silence, the sound of that train felt like a song. Closer now, fences appeared, wagon tracks, and a lone dog barking somewhere ahead. The cowboy straightened in his saddle, dust clinging to his hat. Abilene, at last, the end of the trail, and maybe the beginning of something else. The herd moved through the edge of town, slow, patient, guided by tired hands and steady voices. Children ran alongside, pointing and laughing, their shouts echoing between wooden buildings. The smell of food drifted from an open doorway. Bread, stew, coffee. It was almost enough to make a man forget how tired he was. The cowboy nodded to a woman sweeping her porch. She smiled, soft and kind, the kind of smile that said, "Welcome home," even if this wasn't home at all. For a moment, the noise of the town felt strange, too loud, too alive. But beneath it all was peace. The long ride was over. They tied their horses, washed the dust from their faces, and stepped inside a small diner near the station. The air smelled of coffee and warm bread. Someone played a slow tune on a piano in the corner. They sat in silence, hands wrapped around steaming mugs. No one spoke. They didn't need to. Every bite tasted richer than gold, because it was earned. The cowboy leaned back in his chair, eyes half closed, the hum of conversation fading into a dream. He wasn't asleep, not yet, but he could feel the rest coming. Evening came gently over Abilene. The sky turned pink, then purple, then deep blue again. The streets grew quiet, the lamps flickering one by one. The cowboy stood outside, hands in his pockets, watching the town settle into its own rhythm. He could still hear the faint whistle of a faraway train, the sound of someone closing a door, the sigh of wind between the buildings. Tomorrow, he might head back out, another trail, another herd, another endless sky. But tonight, he would rest. The dust of the trail was gone, but its peace stayed with him, soft, steady, like a heartbeat. And as the stars returned once more, the world exhaled, slow and full of quiet gratitude. The town was asleep. The lamps glowed dim in the windows, casting soft light across the quiet street. The cowboy walked alone, boots clicking slow against the wooden boards. No destination, no hurry, just the rhythm of his own steps, and the whisper of wind. He looked up. The stars were still there, same as on the trail. It struck him, how the world could change and still feel the same. He smiled faintly and kept walking. The night didn't ask where he was going. It just let him be. Down near the tracks, a few lanterns still burned. Steam hissed from the iron beast of a train. Waiting for morning, he stood there a long time, watching the light shimmer on the metal wheels. That train could take him anywhere, east, west, into towns with music and laughter, or cities that never slept. But his heart, it still belonged to the open land. He reached out, touched the cool steel, and whispered, "Not yet." Then he turned back toward the darkness, toward the silence that felt like home. He found an old wooden bench beside the station platform and sat down. The night air was cool, smelling faintly of coal and dew. He took off his hat, rubbed a hand across his face, and let out a breath that felt like it had been held for days. His thoughts wandered, not to where he was going, but to where he'd been. Faces he'd met, voices that lingered, a sky that never ended. He closed his eyes, listening to the crickets, and for a moment, he wasn't sure if he was awake or already dreaming. Sleep came softly, like dust settling after a long ride. He dreamed of the plains, endless gold beneath a silver sky, the sound of hooves, the smell of rain on dry grass, the low call of cattle far in the distance. It wasn't a memory, it was a part of him, something the trail had left behind, deep and quiet inside his chest. In his dream, he rode again, not toward anything, not away from anything, just riding. The world around him, a sea of calm, the wind whispering his name. When morning came, the sky was pale blue, soft and slow. He woke to the sound of a train leaving town, the whistle fading into the distance. The cowboy smiled, tightened his coat, and stood. The road stretched out ahead, quiet, empty, waiting. He took one last look at the town behind him, then stepped forward. The trail was calling again. And as he walked, the wind rose, carrying with it the same calm rhythm that had always followed him, the sound of the earth, the breath of the plains, and the peace of a man who'd found his way, not to a place, but to himself. The cowboy walked the dirt road, leaving the sound of town behind. Each step felt lighter now, like the weight of all those miles had quietly slipped away. The sky was wide again, the horizon clean and endless. He stopped once, turned to look back. The town was just a blur now, a soft memory in the morning haze. He smiled, not out of joy, not out of sadness, but out of something deeper, gratitude. Then he turned again and kept walking. The wind picked up, gentle, steady, moving through the tall grass like a voice. It sounded almost familiar, like the laughter of friends long gone, like the hum of a campfire song. He tilted his hat, listened close. Maybe it wasn't wind at all. Maybe it was the trail itself, speaking in the only way it knew how, telling him, "You're still part of this." And he believed it. Every man leaves something behind, but the road remembers. By midday, he reached a shallow river. The water shimmered in the sunlight, cool and clear, flowing slow between smooth stones. He knelt beside it, cupped his hands, and drank. The taste was pure, earth and sky together. As he washed his face, he saw his reflection ripple, older now, but peaceful. The river carried on, never stopping, never asking where it was going. He smiled softly. Maybe life was like that too. By evening, he found a small hill overlooking the plains. The sun was sinking low, a slow fire melting into gold. He sat down in the grass, hat in his hands, and watched the world turn quiet again. The sky bled orange, then pink, then faded to silver blue. The wind hummed through the grass, a lullaby for the weary. He thought about all the days behind him, each one hard, each one beautiful. And for the first time, he realized he wasn't searching anymore. He'd already found it, that stillness, that peace. The stars came out, one by one, like old friends finding their way home. He lay back on the earth, hands behind his head, eyes half open to the sky. The world around him breathed slow. The grass, the wind, the dark. Somewhere, a coyote called. Somewhere, a train whispered goodbye. He smiled faintly. Tomorrow didn't matter. Nothing did, except this moment, his breath, this quiet. And as his eyes closed, the night folded over him like a blanket. The trail went on forever, but he was finally at rest. If you're still awake, thank you for riding this long, quiet road with me. If you're already asleep, I hope your dreams are peaceful. Don't forget, when you wake, leave a little kindness behind, and maybe a like and a comment too. Until next time, sleep well, cowboy. White Heart Crescent Moon. The sea was quiet tonight. Waves rolled slow, like breathing. Far out on the cliff, a single light turned in the dark. The lighthouse, old and steadfast. Inside, a man moved in silence, boots on stone, lantern in hand. He had no name anyone remembered. They just called him the keeper. He lived here alone, with the wind, and the endless sound of the sea. Every night was the same. At dusk, he lit the lamp, the slow, careful ritual. Wick trimmed, oil filled, glass cleaned till it shone. Then he'd climb the narrow stairs, step by step, listening to the ocean hum below. When he reached the top, he'd watch the first flash of light cut across the dark water. That light wasn't just for ships. It was for him too, the small promise that he still mattered. Sometimes, when the wind was right, he could still hear it. The storm. The night he first came here. The waves like thunder. The boat, small and broken. He'd washed ashore, with nothing but a coat and a heartbeat. Since then, the lighthouse became his world, his duty, his home, his penance. He never spoke of the past. The sea had already taken enough words. A supply boat came from the mainland. They'd bring food, oil, and sometimes a letter, but not for him. Never for him. Still he waited, watching the horizon, as if hope could be seen in the distance. The sailors waved, called out his name. He waved back, smiling, as though nothing hurt. When they left, the silence came back too, and the sea kept whispering, as if it knew everything. The lamp turned slow, its beams sweeping across the dark. He stood by the glass, watching the ocean breathe. Some nights, he'd imagine voices in the wind. After, a name he once knew, a dream he'd forgotten. But when dawn came, it all faded. Only the sea remained. Only the light. Only him. The night was still. A breath of wind touched the window. It started soft, like someone sighing outside the tower, then louder, curling around the stones, rattling the glass panes, and moaning through the cracks. He listened. Every keeper learns to listen, because sometimes the wind carries voices, not real ones, but memories, shadows of sound, that belong to another time. He heard laughter once, soft, distant, a woman's laughter, like sunlight caught in a bottle. But when he turned, there was only darkness, and the steady pulse of the light, swinging across the black sea. He sat by the window, hands folded, eyes on the horizon, and whispered to the night, "Not yet. I'm not ready yet." Just before midnight, something shimmered on the far water, a light, faint, almost swallowed by the waves. At first, he thought it was imagination, but it flickered again, then steadied. A ship, small perhaps, alone. He raised his telescope, his hands trembling slightly. Through the foggy glass, he saw her silhouette, a ghostly frame against the restless sea. No lanterns burned on her deck. No sound came from her hull. She drifted, slow and lost, as if the ocean itself had forgotten her name. He felt his heart move, not from fear, but recognition, because he had once been like that ship, adrift without a shore. The light of his tower swept over her again, but this time, she was gone. Only mist remained, only silence, and the faint taste of salt on the air. Down in the living quarters, the keeper lit a small candle. Its glow was soft, golden, flickering against the damp walls. He kept it on the table beside an old book, filled with years of careful handwriting. Each night, after the light was steady above, He'd write, not about ships, not about storms, but about the things he remembered, faces, places, moments that once seemed ordinary and now felt sacred. He wrote of the warmth of another hand, the sound of a name whispered in the dark, the promise that someone would return. He paused often, his pen hovering over the page, as though he'd forgotten the ending of a sentence he once knew by heart. The candle burned low, wax pooling at its base. He closed the book, and the tower creaked softly, as if it too was listening. Then the rain came. First, the soft tapping, like fingertips against the window pane. Then harder, steadier, until the entire lighthouse seemed wrapped in the sound. He moved up the spiral stairs again, each step echoing under his boots. When he reached the top, the great lamp glowed warm and golden, its beams slicing through sheets of rain. He wiped the glass, clearing the water trails with his sleeve, and for a moment, he saw his reflection there. Tired eyes, a face carved by time and wind, a man who had given everything to keep one light alive. So, the ocean heaved and sighed, endless and ancient. He leaned his head against the cold iron frame, listening to the heartbeat of the sea, and whispered, "Hold steady, just a little longer." After the storm passed, a deep calm settled. The sea turned black again, smooth as glass. He sat by the lantern room, the big lamp turning slow, its rhythm as steady as breathing. Below, the world slept. Above, the stars began to return, one by one. He felt small beneath them, not lonely, not afraid, just small. He remembered something then, a voice from long ago. Keep the light burning, no matter what happens. Someone will always need it. So he stayed awake, watching the light spin, watching the sea breathe, watching the world turn quietly onward. And when the first gray of dawn touched the horizon, he smiled, found a smile only the sea could understand. The dawn came quietly, not with color, but with silence. The sea was pale and silver now, a mirror of light. The keeper stood on the balcony, hands resting on the cold railing. Below him, waves touched the rocks gently, as if apologizing for the storm. The air was damp, smelling of salt and rain. He closed his eyes, and for a brief moment, he imagined he wasn't alone. That maybe, down in the village, someone was waking too, boiling tea, thinking of him. But when he opened his eyes, there was only the sea, stretching forever, quiet and endless. He whispered to it, "Good morning, old friend." And the waves answered back, with a slow, soft sigh. He went down the narrow stairway, each step creaking softly underfoot. In the small kitchen, everything was simple. An iron pot, a wooden chair, a cracked mug. He boiled water, the sound soft and steady, like the breathing of the lighthouse itself. He poured the tea, the faint aroma filling the cold room. He sat by the window, steam rising from the cup, watching seagulls glide low over the water. Sometimes he talked to them, not expecting an answer, just to hear a voice, even if it was his own. "Do you ever get tired of flying?" he asked once, smiling faintly. The gulls screamed, as if laughing back. He chuckled softly, the sound small, but real. Then he took another sip of tea, and felt the warmth settle in his chest. After breakfast, he went to his desk. There was an old drawer there, this wood faded, edges worn smooth from years of touch. Inside, beneath a folded map and a rusted compass, lay a single envelope, yellowed, unopened. He didn't know why he'd never read it. Maybe he was afraid. Maybe some words are meant to remain sealed, like secrets the sea keeps. His fingers brushed the paper gently. The handwriting was delicate, almost trembling. He whispered the name on the front, and for the first time in months, his voice broke. He closed the drawer again, slowly, carefully, like putting a ghost back to sleep. Outside, the day grew brighter. The keeper climbed down the narrow steps to the rocky edge of the island. The sea breeze brushed against his face, and the waves sparkled in the new light. He checked the ropes, the oil drums, the small wooden boat tied to the post. Every motion was part of a rhythm. Careful, like a prayer done by habit. He fixed the cracked railing, hammered loose nails, cleaned the salt from the metal pipes. The sound of the hammer echoed softly across the cliffs, the heartbeat of the lighthouse. As he worked, the memory surfaced, hands beside his own. A laugh carried on the wind. Someone sang, "You always overthink everything." He stopped, looked up at the sky, and whispered, "I still do." By afternoon, the light had turned golden. The sea stretched wide and warm, and the gulls circled lazily overhead. He sat outside, on a flat stone by the edge of the tower, a book in his lap. Though he wasn't reading, he was simply there, breathing, listening, watching the slow rhythm of the waves. Sometimes that's all it takes, to feel alive again. He picked up a pebble and tossed it gently into the water. It disappeared with a soft plop, sending tiny ripples outward, widening, until they vanished into the vast sea. And for the first time that day, he smiled, a quiet, wordless smile, like sunlight breaking through a long cloud. The lighthouse behind him hummed softly, its light ready for another night. And the world, in that moment, felt perfectly still. Evening came slow. The sun dipped low, turning the sea to molten gold. The lighthouse shadow stretched long over the rocks, and the keeper stood quietly, watching the horizon fade. He felt the cool wind rising, carrying the smell of salt and distance. From somewhere far out, the bell rang, a low, mournful tone, rolling across the waves. He'd never heard it before. He tilted his head, listening. It rang again, faint, distant, but real. He whispered to himself, "There's no ship scheduled tonight." The bell rang once more, then was swallowed by silence. He turned back to the tower, his boots echoing on the stone. It was time to light the lamp again. Inside the lantern room, the air was still. He cleaned the glass, trimmed the wick, and lit the flame, a single, trembling spark that bloomed into golden light. The great lens began to turn, slow and steady, sending its beam across the darkening sea. He stood beside it, watching the light move, the same ritual he'd done 1,000 nights before. But tonight felt different. There was a weight in the air, like the sea was holding its breath. He thought of the bell again, that lonely sound in the mist. Then, just for a moment, he thought he saw something, a small shape moving in the distance, half hidden by fog. He blinked. It was gone. He leaned closer to the glass, heart steady but unsure, and whispered, "Maybe the sea's just playing tricks again." It was close to midnight when he heard it. So small but unmistakable. 3 knocks. Slow, deliberate. He froze. No one ever came here without a signal. The last supply boat was a week ago. The sound came again. 3 knocks. He walked down the spiral staircase, each step echoing through the tower. At the base, he paused by the heavy wooden door. His hand hovered over the latch. The sea outside roared softly, as if waiting. He took a slow breath, then pulled the door open. Nothing, just the fog, thick and white, curling around the rocks like smoke. But then, on the stone by the door, lay something small, an envelope, wet from the mist. No name, no seal. He picked it up, hands trembling. He carried the envelope upstairs, the storm beginning to rise again outside. Thunder rolled far away. The wind pressed against the tower walls, making them groan softly. He sat by the lantern light, the envelope in his hands. For a long time, he didn't move, just watched it, felt its weight. Then slowly, he opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper, its ink faint and blurred, as if written long ago. "You are not alone. Keep the light burning. We are coming home." His heart pounded. The words swayed in the flickering light. He turned the paper over. There was no signature, only a small mark, a wave drawn in faded blue. The same mark that was carved on the wall, beside his bed, something he'd never remembered carving. The wind howled louder. The lamp flickered once, then steadied. He whispered, "Who are you?" But the sea did not answer. He climbed to the top again, the light spinning slow above him. Through the fog, he saw it, that faint glow once more. A ship, moving closer, silent, steady, gliding through the mist. Its sails were torn, mast bent, but it was there. He gripped the railing, his breath fogging the glass. The light swept over it, and for a single second, he saw figures on the deck. Not moving, just standing, watching. Then the fog swallowed everything. Gone. Only the sound of waves remained, and the endless pulse of the light. Turning, like a heartbeat that refused to stop. He whispered to the dark, "I'll keep the light for you, whoever you are." And below, the sea answered, with a deep, soft sigh that he climbed to the top again, the light spinning slow above him. Through the fog, he saw it, that faint glow once more. A ship, moving closer, silent, steady, gliding through the mist. Its sails were torn, mast bent, but it was there. He gripped the railing, his breath fogging the glass. The light swept over it, and for a single second, he saw figures on the deck. Not moving, just standing, watching. Then the fog swallowed everything. Gone. Only the sound of waves remained, and the endless pulse of the light. Turning, like a heartbeat that refused to stop. He whispered to the dark, "I'll keep the light for you, whoever you are." And below, the sea answered, with a deep, soft sigh. The night stretched endless. Only the lamp's soft hum filled the air. He stood at the window, eyes searching the dark water below. The sea looked calm again, too calm, and then he heard it, a whisper, low, distant, as if rising from beneath the surface. He pressed his ear to the glass. It wasn't the wind, not the tide. It was a voice, faint, calling his name. Elias. He froze. No one had spoken his name in years. He hadn't even remembered it. Until this moment, he whispered back, "Who's there?" But the waves only shimmered, and the light kept turning, slow and faithful, like time itself refusing to stop. Down in his room, a cracked mirror hung beside the bed. He hadn't looked at it in months, maybe years. Tonight he did. The reflection stared back, Floyd, Salt Street, and yet, somehow unfamiliar, behind his shoulder. For just an instant, he thought he saw her. A woman, her hair dark, her smile faint. She reached toward him, and the glass fogged. He blinked, and she was gone. Only his own weary eyes remained. He reached up, touched the mirror's edge, and whispered, "Lena." The name slipped out, like a sigh long held inside. The sea outside moaned softly, echoing the sound. He went to his desk again, lit a candle, and opened the old journal, the one he'd stopped writing in months ago. The pages smelled of salt and smoke. He turned to a blank one, the pen trembling in his hand. He began to write, "The light is not for ships anymore. It's for memory, for the lost ones, for her." He paused, staring at the words, then turned to the first page. At the top, in careful handwriting, he saw a name, not his. Lena Marin, keeper's assistant, year 1878. His heart stopped. He whispered, "No, that's not possible." The ink was faded, but the handwriting was the same as his. A distant rumble shook the tower. The sea was waking again. Waves began to pound against the rocks, the air thick with rain and mist. He climbed the stairs to the lantern room, the storm rising like a voice. The glass trembled. The wind howled through the cracks. He pressed his hands against the metal frame, keeping the lamp steady. Through the roar of the wind, he heard it again, that bell. But this time, it wasn't distant. It was close, louder, clear, and beneath it, a voice. "Elias, keep the light." Turn. The fog outside glowed faintly. Shapes moved in it, flickering like memories. The sea thundered below. And still he whispered back, "I'm here. I'm still keeping it." The storm raged for hours. Rain hammered the glass. Waves crashed higher and higher, salt spray flying through the cracks. The keeper fought to keep the lamp alive, shielding it with his coat, feeding it oil, whispering to it like a child. Outside, the world vanished in white mist. Inside, the light burned steady, defiant. And as he looked out, he saw it again. That ship. Closer now. Sails torn, deck empty, but moving straight toward the light. And on the wind, a voice, soft Kent, almost smiling. "We found you." He blinked. For a moment, the entire sea seemed to glow, as if every wave carried light within it. Then the storm broke. Silence returned. The ship was gone, but the light still turned, strong as ever. He fell to his knees, whispering to the darkness, "I kept it. I kept the light." So the sea breathed slow again, like something ancient falling asleep. The first light of dawn stretched across the horizon, pale and delicate, like a sigh of the world. The sea reflected it softly, turning silver and gold in gentle waves. The keeper stood on the balcony, hands resting on the cool stone. For the first time in days, he felt the air not as a weight, but as a gentle embrace. He breathed slowly, listening to the soft murmur of the tide. Somewhere far away, a gull cried. Its voice was bright, a reminder that life continued. Even in solitude, he whispered, "Good morning, old friend." And the sea answered, with a slow, rolling sigh. Back inside, he moved quietly through his small kitchen. He boiled water for tea, the hiss soft, almost like a lullaby. A slice of bread toasted slowly, golden brown, the smell warm and familiar. He sat by the window, watching the waves lap the rocks below. Every motion was deliberate, like a meditation. He sipped slowly and let the warmth settle in his chest. No one was here to see him, but it did not matter. The simplicity of routine was enough to remind him that he was alive. After breakfast, he wandered to the edge of the island. The tide was calm now, mirroring the sky. Hands touching the cold water, he saw the reflection of the lighthouse, the light slowly spinning above him. For a long moment, he stared into the water. He saw not only his reflection, but shadows of memory. Lena's smile, the ghostly ship, and the letters he had never sent. The waves carried them softly, as if reminding him that the past could exist without harming the present. He whispered to the tide, "I remember, but I am still here." He explored the cliffs, stone by stone, searching for driftwood, checking ropes, listening to the sea's rhythm. And there, hidden behind a jutting rock, he found a small alcove, filled with smooth stones, a place he had never noticed. Inside, he saw carvings, initials, dates, faint symbols. Years of visitors? Or messages from the sea itself? He ran his fingers over the oldest carvings and felt a strange connection, as if every hand that touched these stones had left a piece of its soul behind. The keeper smiled faintly. Even in isolation, he was not alone. The wind carried a soft tune through the alcove, the sound of waves, and memories mingled together. The sun climbed higher, casting long, warm shadows across the island. The keeper returned to the lighthouse, checking the lamp, feeding it oil, preparing for the night ahead. He paused at the lantern room window, watching the calm sea stretch to the horizon. A deep serenity filled him. He was alone, but not lonely. The memories of the storm, the ghostly ship, and the letters, all mingled into a gentle understanding. Some lights exist not to guide others, but to guide ourselves. He lit the lamp once more, its golden beam cutting through the quiet evening. And as dusk approached, he whispered softly, "I will keep it burning, always." The twilight came slowly, the sky turning a deep, velvety blue. Stars began to appear, tiny sparks reflected on the silver waves. The keeper stood on the balcony, listening to the rhythmic pulse of the sea. He could feel the island breathing, the rocks warming from the day, the wind soft and gentle against his face. A single gull flew across the horizon, its shadow sliding along the water. He whispered to the night, "Stay with me, just a little while." And the sea responded, a soft, endless sigh, like the world itself had exhaled. Inside, he sat by the window, the light of the lamp flickering softly. He opened the journal once more, pages rustling in the quiet. He wrote slowly, words spilling like the tide. The night is mine, and the sea is mine. The stars watch over me, and I watch over them. He paused, looking at his reflection in the glass. The face staring back was older now, lined with wind and salt, but calm. For the first time, he felt a sense of peace that did not depend on others, only on the rhythm of his own heart and the light he kept burning. A sudden breeze drifted through the tower, carrying a faint whisper, like words half remembered. He closed his eyes, letting the wind pass over his skin. It spoke to him, not in language, but in feeling. Loneliness is not absence. It is presence in another form. The lighthouse hummed softly, the lamp's golden light sweeping over the sea, reflecting the stars. He exhaled slowly, the wind carrying his breath away, blending with the endless murmur of the waves. He walked down to the rocky shore, barefoot, feeling the stones beneath him. The water lapped gently at his feet, a cooling embrace. The horizon stretched wide and empty, yet full of possibility. He knelt and touched the tide, feeling its timeless rhythm. Every wave told a story, every ripple held a secret. He whispered softly, "I hear you, I see you, I remember." And the sea, vast and infinite, seemed to nod, wrapping him in quiet understanding. Back at the lighthouse, he climbed the spiral stairs slowly, each step echoing like a heartbeat. He reached the lantern room, checked the lamp, and watched the stars reflected in the calm sea. A sense of stillness settled over him, not empty but full, of memory, of light, of life lived in quiet devotion. He whispered one last time before resting, "Keep the light, keep the memory, keep the peace." And the world seemed to pause. Only the faint hum of the waves, the soft flicker of the lamp, and the endless sky remained. The night held him gently, and for the first time, he was truly at ease. The lighthouse stood alone against the velvet night. The keeper climbed the spiral stairs slowly, each step echoing softly, blending with the hum of distant waves. Inside the lantern room, the lamp rotated steadily, casting golden arcs over the water. He leaned against the railing, listening to the quiet. No voices, no footsteps, only the gentle lapping of the tide and the distant call of a night bird. For the first time in weeks, he felt truly alone, and yet not lonely. The night embraced him, like a familiar friend, whispering secrets of the sea. He opened the journal once more, fingers brushing over faded ink. Memories rose like tides. Lena's smile, the ghostly ship, the letters he never sent. He wrote slowly, the pen scratching softly against the paper. "I carry them with me, every face, every voice, every wave. The light is theirs as much as mine." He paused, gazing through the window. The stars reflected in the water, turning the sea into a canvas of memories and light. And for a moment, he felt the past and present, folding together, soft and seamless. A faint wind drifted through the tower, carrying a soft murmur, almost like a voice. The keeper closed his eyes, letting the sound fill him. It spoke in feeling, not words. Guidance is not always seen. Some lights are meant to guide the heart. He breathed slowly, letting the rhythm of the waves and the rotation of the lamp sync with his heartbeat. For a long while, the night and the lighthouse were one living, breathing entity. Downstairs, he walked the halls quietly, each step careful, deliberate. Shadows stretched across the walls, dancing in the soft glow of lanterns. He paused at the door to the balcony, stepping out into the cool night air. The island lay still, bathed in silver moonlight. He could hear the soft hush of the tide, the rustle of grasses, the whisper of leaves. He felt connected to it all. Every wave, every stone, every breeze, a part of something larger and entirely eternal. He returned to the lantern room, placing a hand on the glass, feeling the warmth of the lamp. The light rotated steadily, a beacon in the dark, faithful, unwavering. He realized then, the light was not just for ships, nor for memories, but for him. A reminder of perseverance, the presence of hope. He whispered softly, I am the light, and the light is me. The sea outside sighed, the waves gentle, the night endless and serene. And as he settled down for rest, the lamp turned slowly, casting its golden arc over the tranquil, sleeping sea. The sky stretched endlessly, velvet dark and sprinkled with countless stars. The keeper leaned on the balcony, watching each glimmer reflected on the calm sea below. The lighthouse spun its beams slowly, cutting across the waves like a gentle heartbeat. He whispered softly to the night, Guide me, old friend, guide me through the dark. The wind carried his words across the island, as if the sea itself replied, a gentle hum mingling with the soft lap of waves. He closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the peace of being fully present in the quiet, eternal night. Inside, he returned to the journal, the candlelight flickering softly on the pages. Memories drifted in, Lena smile, letters never sent, ships lost to fog and storm. He wrote slowly, the words spilling like soft waves. Every memory is a light, every shadow a story, and every night I carry them all. He paused, listening to the quiet murmur of the sea. The echoes of the past mingled with the present, soft and gentle, like the tide brushing against the shore. And he realized, even in solitude, he was never truly alone. The wind drifted through the tower again, soft and melodic, whistling through the cracks of the stone walls. The keeper felt it as if the lighthouse itself were breathing. Every rotation of the lamp, every flicker of the flame, synchronized with the rhythm of the waves. He exhaled slowly, letting the lighthouse's steady pulse fill him with calm and quiet confidence. Together, he whispered, we endure the night. The sea responded with a gentle sigh, the waves lapping in perfect harmony with his thoughts. He descended to the shore once more, barefoot, feeling the smooth stones beneath him. The tide was gentle, rolling softly over his feet. Moonlight reflected on the water, turning each wave into liquid silver. Letting the sea brush his hands, letting the wind tousle his hair. He whispered into the night, I see you, I feel you, I am here. And the world seemed to pause, the sea embracing him in quiet understanding, the night wrapping him in serene stillness. Back in the lighthouse, he climbed the spiral stairs slowly, each step echoing softly, a rhythm in harmony with the night. He reached the lantern room, checked the lamp one final time, its golden glow steady and faithful. He lay down on the small cot, the hum of the lighthouse and the waves blending into a lullaby. He whispered to the darkness, keep the light and keep me safe. The night held him gently, and for the first time in a long while, he felt the deep, endless calm that comes only when the world pauses and sleep arrives like a soft tide. The horizon stretched infinitely, a thin line of silver where sea met sky. The keeper stood at the balcony, the cool night air brushing his face. The lighthouse's golden beam rotated slowly, its rhythm steady, unwavering. He whispered softly, beyond this horizon, beyond the waves, there is peace. The sea responded with a gentle sigh, waves rolling quietly over rocks, each ripple a soft lullaby. Stars twinkled faintly above, their reflection dancing on the water, and he felt the infinite calm of the universe surrounding him. Inside, he opened his journal one final time. The pages were filled with memories, stories, names, faces, and unspoken words. He wrote slowly, every stroke deliberate, to the sea I give my thoughts, to the light I give my presence, to the night I give my rest. He folded the journal, placing it carefully on the desk. Outside, the wind carried a faint, melodic whisper, as if the sea itself was reading his words. He closed his eyes, letting the sound of the waves and the gentle hum of the lamp fill every corner of his being. He climbed the spiral stairs slowly, the walls of the lighthouse echoing softly with each step. Reaching the lantern room, He pressed his hand to the glass, feeling the warmth of the steady flame. In that moment, he understood. The light was not just a guide for ships, nor merely a symbol of memory. It was a mirror of the soul. Steady, enduring, and quietly radiant. He whispered, "I am the light, and I am at peace." The sea responded with soft, rhythmic waves, like a heartbeat in the night. He descended to the small cot once more, feeling the stone floor cool beneath his feet. The wind drifted through the tower softly, carrying the scent of salt and seaweed. He lay down, pulling a thin blanket over his shoulders, the lamp casting a warm glow around him. The night held him gently, waves whispering endlessly, the stars shimmering faintly through the tower window. He whispered one last time, "Sleep now, sleep, the light is here." And slowly, his eyelids closed. The world softened. The sea hummed. The lighthouse watched faithfully. Outside, the world remained serene. The sea glimmered softly under the moonlight, the lighthouse's golden beams slicing through the gentle darkness. The keeper slept, his chest rising and falling in rhythm with the pulse of the night. Memories, light, and solitude mingled into perfect harmony. The lamp continued its quiet rotation. The waves whispered endlessly, and for the first time in a long time, he was wholly at peace. The lighthouse, the sea, and the keeper, all part of one calm, eternal rhythm. The world holding its breath in soft, dreamlike stillness. The night has calmed. The storm has passed. And now, the sea rests. The lighthouse stands tall, wet stones shimmering under a sleepy moon. The keeper opens the heavy door, feeling the damp wind brush against his face. He steps outside, and for the first time in a long while, the silence feels alive. He looks at the waves, gentle and slow, whispering like an old friend. "Even the sea must rest," he says softly, and his words fade into the mist. The air smells of rain and salt, and peace. The world feels new. Every stone glistens. Every leaf carries a drop of light. The keeper walks along the wet sand, his boots sinking into the soft ground. He kneels by the water's edge and touches the sea. It's cold, but beneath that chill, there's a pulse, a heartbeat that feels like the world itself. "Do you remember me?" he whispers. Gentle wave rises, brushes his hand, and retreats, as if answering, "Always." The keeper smiles. Among the rocks, something glimmers. The bottle, pale one, touched by time. The keeper picks it up, wipes away the sand, and sees a faint scroll inside. He opens it carefully. The paper is soft, old, but one line remains clear. "Light will find you, even when you cannot see." His eyes fill, not with tears of sorrow, but with quiet release. "Thank you," he breathes, "for reminding me." The sea answers with a soft sigh. That night, he lights a lantern, not for ships, but for memories. He places it near the window, where the ocean wind can see it. The flame dances slowly, its glow painting gentle waves across the wall. Eyes closed, he remembers his father's laughter, his mother's humming, and Lena's smile, warm as the first light of dawn. Every memory flickers, glowing brighter, until the room feels alive again. "I'm not alone," he whispers. "I never was." The sea is still, so still, it mirrors the stars above. The lighthouse beam turns slowly, a guardian of the sleeping world. The keeper sits by the edge, eyes half closed, breathing with the tide. And out, the world moves with him, calm, endless, weightless. Time no longer matters. He feels the sea and sky become one, a soft cradle of peace. "Maybe heaven," he whispers, "isn't somewhere above, but right here, where the light never fades." The keeper closes his eyes, and suddenly, the line between sea and sky disappears. The world melts into light. He is floating, not in water, but in memory. Each wave he hears carries a voice, soft, distant, familiar. "Do not fear the quiet," one of them whispers. "It's where everything begins." His body feels weightless, his mind unbound. The ocean breathes, and he breathes with it. He finds himself standing on a shore that shouldn't exist. The sand glows faintly, silver and blue, like moonlight made solid. The air is still, heavy with peace. Far ahead, a small flame flickers, the lantern waiting for him. He walks slowly, each step leaving no trace. The waves hum low, a lullaby too old to remember. Is this a dream? He asks the silence. The silence answers, does it matter? He smiles and keeps walking. The lantern glows brighter now, and from within the light, he hears her voice. You never stopped watching the sea, she says, even when you forgot why. He closes his eyes. The sound of her words is like wind brushing through tall grass, gentle, fleeting, eternal. Lena, he whispers, I tried to hold the light. You did, she answers. And now it holds you. The light around him warms. Not bright, but alive. The world shifts again. He walks through a great hall, carved from memory itself. Every wall glows faintly, alive with whispers, voices of all the sailors he once guided home. You kept us safe, they murmur. You showed us the way. The keeper walks slowly, running his hand along the glowing wall. I only lit the lamp, he says softly. You found your way yourselves. The echoes laugh, soft as a breeze. And then, silence again. The dream dissolves. Slowly the colors fade, from silver to gold, from night to morning. The keeper opens his eyes. The sea is before him again, calm, glowing, Phyllis. His hands rest on the windowsill. The lantern's flame is gone, but the light is everywhere. I see now, he whispers. The sea was never only water. It was memory. It was love. He breathes in deeply. The horizon hums. The world is whole again. The horizon blushes with dawn. The world is still half asleep. The keeper stands at the edge of the cliff, his coat brushing against the morning wind. The light spills over the water, soft, golden, tender. It touches the stones of the lighthouse, and for the first time in years, he feels the warmth not as a duty, but as a gift. The sea stretches endlessly, but it no longer feels lonely. You've done enough. The light seems to whisper, now rest. He closes his eyes and lets the sunlight fall gently on his face. Memory returns, soft and slow, like an old film flickering in candlelight. He sees his younger self, building the lighthouse stone by stone. He remembers laughter, the sound of tools, the smell of salt and sweat, and the letters from Lena, folded neatly in his pocket. Time had passed quietly, carrying love and loss together, like waves carrying shells. He smiles faintly. I thought I was building a tower, he murmurs, but I was building a home. He walks down toward the rocks, where the tide gently laps at his boots. Each wave seems to carry a story, the laughter of sailors, the cry of gulls, the hush of 1,000 quiet nights. We all return. The sea whispers. Every light, every wave, every dream. He kneels, placing his hand into the cold water. For a moment, he feels the pulse of the ocean, as if it were a heartbeat, old as time, steady as breath. Back in the lighthouse, he looks at the empty lantern. The glass is cracked, the metal old, but something glows within it. Steady, alive. He realizes the truth. The flame was never meant to last forever. It was meant to be passed on, from the tower, to the sky, to him. He places his hand over his heart, and the light moves, fills his chest, warm and calm, until his breath and the sea's rhythm become one. The morning is full now. The world wakes slowly, golden and quiet. The keeper stands at the doorway, watching sunlight spill across the waves. The tower behind him no longer feels heavy. It stands like a memory, solid, kind, eternal. The sea will keep its stories, he whispers, and I will keep its light. His voice is calm, like wind through grass. He takes one last look at the horizon, then turns inward, back toward rest. The world stands still. The horizon stretches endlessly, blue melting into white, light melting into silence. The keeper breathes softly, his thoughts slow and quiet. The sea no longer roars. It hums, low and eternal, like a lullaby made of light. He feels the air move through him, like wind through an open door. Time has no edges now, only peace. Then from the golden haze, a voice returns. It's Lena, but she isn't beside him. She is the light. Her words drift gently through the air. You carried the flame for so long. She whispers. Now it carries you. The keeper closes his eyes. A single tear warms his cheek, not of sorrow, but of release. The wind brushes his hair, and the light deepens, folding around him like calm waves. I'm home, he breathes. The lighthouse glows softly, though no fire burns inside. From within, a new light rises, pure, endless, breathing. The keeper's body begins to fade, not lost, but transformed. His outline shimmers, findimus, breath to glow. His voice echoes once more. No one truly keeps the light. We all become it. The sea listens. The clouds part. The tower stands radiant and still, like a dream remembering itself. Days pass, or maybe centuries. Ships still cross the distant waves. And on quiet nights, sailors say they see a glow, where the lighthouse used to stand. A warm, golden light. A moving, alive. Some say it's the stars. Whisper it's the keeper, still watching, still guiding, from beyond time. And when the night grows deep, and the sea turns to silver, the world breathes. One long, peaceful sigh. The ocean dreams. The stars drift. And somewhere, within that endless quiet, a light still shines. Gentle, patient, eternal. The keeper has become the calm. The sea. The silence. Nothing ends. Only rests. The sea grows quiet now. The story drifts into silence. The lighthouse stands, glowing softly against the endless night. And the keeper, the man who carried light through storms and loneliness, has become one with the calm. His watch is over, but his peace still lingers here, just like the rhythm of your breath. And out, slow, gentle. Pause, sound of waves deepens slightly. The world outside can wait. Tonight, you are safe. You are floating, just like the keeper's lantern, over quiet waters. Nothing to do, nowhere to be. Just the sound of your breathing, and the sea, and the stars above. Pause, faint piano notes return briefly. Every story fades, but peace remains. Let your eyes grow heavier and heavier. Your hands loosen. Your thoughts soften. The sound of the ocean carries them away. Long pause, whisper softer now. You did enough today. You've carried your own kind of light, just like the keeper. And now, it's time to rest. Time to drift into that endless horizon, where dreams shimmer like the sea. Pause, ocean hum deepens. The waves rise and fall, matching the rhythm of your breath. And out, and out. Pause, whisper even softer. You are calm. You are weightless. You are surrounded by peace. The light is within you now. Eternal. Pause, faint seagull far away. Thank you for sharing this journey, for listening, for breathing with the sea. If you've enjoyed this quiet place, you can leave a soft like, a gentle comment, or return again whenever you need rest. But for now, just sleep, drift, and dream. Let the ocean hold you. Let the night keep you safe. Until the next story, until the next light, good night, good night, good night.